And your relationship, I'm going to shift the subject. You spoke about Israel. Your relationship with the late Ben-Ammi, Adone Ben-Ammi, how was that like? How did that come about? And also, if you will care to answer, you know, for years, people like you and Maureen Michelle have gotten criticism for the relationship, you know. Do you care to speak about that? How?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's very important that people understand it. From the days of Jeroboam and Rehoboam, our nation split into what has been known as the northern and the southern kingdom. We've been divided in that manner from those times, perhaps 800 BCE until the present. And the prophecies of Ezekiel 37 says that the time would come when these two sticks metaphorically would be joined together and that Israel would be one nation again. I knew and understood from the words of Cohane Levi that I was from the tribe of Lewi. Lewi comes from the word lao, which were the hooks. If you look it up, it means hooks. It was the hooks that joined the curtains of the tabernacle called the Ohel Moed. So it's even when I was in the streets, brought up and had friends who were friends when they were 7 and 8 until they became 13 and gang members. We were one family of friends. And ignorance caused us to be killers of each other. And I always played the role of wanting them to be brothers. I never wanted to see our people be enemies to one another. I understood that we were not the enemy.
Right.
We are not the enemy today. And we act like the enemy, but we're not. We have to understand that. Our challenge as a people is not only to find the Creator and obey His laws, but we'll never fulfill that until we learn that part of those laws is to form the relationship of neighborliness and brotherhood one with another, of sisterhood one with another, of familyhood, because it's family that make up a nation. All of the Chinese people are of different families. All of the people of Panama, of any country, it starts with family. So that the unification of family is supposed to be innate. It's not even supposed to be taught. It's supposed to be automatically understood, because that's the only way you can come into the earth is through a family,
Right.
not through a religion.
Right.
So that when one has that understanding, which is why we are destroyed, because we don't understand family. That's one of the things that I have to teach. And you can't teach just by words, articulation. It has to be done with example.
Right.
Cohane Levi always taught about unification. Even when I visit the various communities as a young man, as an Israelite, even though we were divided, we still prayed for each other wherever they was. We said, bless all Israel. In the Caribbean, every time I come to you all are still doing that today.
Right.
It cannot just be a prayer. It has to be a mindset. It has to be a love of self. And it has to be genuine. That's the only way we'll ever get. You also have to know that, as Cohen taught me, that's where the Torah comes in, that every family has misunderstandings. All of the other people, even the Jews in the land of Israel, even the Ishmaelites, they are Shiites and Sunnis and all of that, but they all understand family.
Right.
It doesn't mean that because you have differences or different views that it should divide you. That's why we are in the condition that we are, because we don't realize that differences are part of being 12 different families. In actuality, 13 different families. They were never exactly the same.
Right.
We had words, Sheba-late and Sheba-late, if you we because their lives. So there was differences. So you just got to broaden your mind and understand that when you have misunderstandings, it's the Torah that Yah gave us to help you overcome in a righteous way these differences and the misunderstanding. That has to be applied. So I understand that. I was taught that by Cohane Levi. He even told me, he said, some things that I'm teaching you, Cohen, he said, I can't even do it because I've been affected by the racism of America. But you can do it. Don't follow me. You do what I taught you to do. And that's what I do. Right. So he taught me to unify Israel. That's the tribe of Levi. Right. We don't get land. Yah is my possession. Right. The other tribes, you get the land. We were put into everyone's land to keep the cohesiveness of the family by making sure that they applied and learned the principles of the Torah, of the law. Right. That's my role. So again, if I didn't understand that, my mother was a Christian. I brought her into law. Right. I go to countries, a Rastafarian, I bring them into law. Right. I speak with Christians that are in these countries, Guyana and elsewhere. I bring them to law. Because if I looked at them where they are, I'll never get them, nor can I bring them to truth if I don't respect them where they are. Right. You understand? If I didn't respect my parents, that's why I have so many people in this way of life, because even when I came in, I love them. Right. Love covers all transgressions. So if you love a person, you try to reach them. The brothers and sisters, they have great courage. You can't change someone who's different from the outside. You only do that by engaging and having conversations. If you are confident in what you're about and you're right, Yahweh upholds the words of his servant. He confirms the words of his servant. So I know that I represent the Holy One of Israel. I'm doing what my words are not my own. I'm just a reiterator of the words of Yah. So therefore, I win every battle because he upholds what I'm saying. And so when you think that someone who might be doing something against Torah is going to change me, no. I know that over time, I'm going to change them. Right. Because that's what it is. You have to have the patience and have the respect and have the endurance to engage. The longer you talk with me, the longer I know that sooner or later you're going to get it. And I'm a teacher. I have students that when I teach them division from one way, they don't get it. You have to have different angles of being able to bring the same point, but from different angles. Depends on who you're speaking to. And if you know where they're at and you know their mindset, it's easier for you to explain it. We have a tendency of when we listen to respond rather than to understand. I listen to understand what you're saying, and then I respond. But my first listening is not to have my lip ready to say something and respond. No, that's not how I listen. That's art. Listening is a skill, and it's an art. So you got to develop that before you can reach people.
So what you would say is, don't try to be combative, but be receptive.
No, because my objective, my goal is for us to agree. So my conversation is for that. And where you say something, I acknowledge, I agree with that. We don't give credit where credit is due. In the Caribbean, they say give Jack his jacket. You know what I mean? So that's what I do. Wherever I agree with a point, I let you know. On that, I agree. So you understand? And then we get down to where, and then I explain my points. And I want you to know this. I just came from Israel. The accomplishment there has been that the priesthood of Cohane Levi has been now and is now being united with the priesthood in Israel. And that we're doing just what we're supposed to be doing, agreeing on the Torah. We have a dialogue that's to take place, to start from Genesis 1:1 to Deuteronomy, and to agree on we're not to come to challenge, what does this say? And again, it took years to achieve what has just been achieved in my just a few days ago from the highest of leadership.
Wow.
Again, Cohane Levi and those souls, Adone Ben-Ammi, and that was Adone Ben-Ammi's vision.
Right.
So again, people don't even realize that, hey, Adone Ben-Ammi represented the #1 student or the top student of a man called Elder Bowie, who I told you earlier,
right.
known as Elder Eliyahu.
Right.
And they identified me as being Cohane Levi's top student.
Without a doubt.
And the two of us joined these sticks together. He's made transition, but everyone knows that he placed me in that priesthood. I'm the only person that has never been taught by the kingdom, never been, again, taught by Ben-Ammi, taught by Cohane Levi. And now that unification is taking place because he understood that he wanted initially Cohane Levi, before Ben-Ammi went to Israel, he visited Cohane Levi and asked him to set up the priesthood. That's history people don't know. So it just happened just 20-something years later through myself. So I'm the person now actually shaping and molding the priesthood in the land of Israel.
Wow.
They're now doing Torah. Another person you should know, I left Gavrit Yasuda in Israel.
Right.
Her daughter Nisria, known as again Savlonut,
right.
she does Torah classes every week in there. We did Torah classes while I was there during this last visit.
Wow,
and the last 2 or 3 times. So we're getting on the same page
right.
in every area. And they're leaving the New Testament, going back to the Hebraic writings and to the Torah.
Right. So,
and that's through that engagement.
So the criticism is really means nothing to you?
First of all, if you ever understand life,
right.
People always criticize. Especially when you're trying to do something good and right. So if you can't stand criticism, don't even get into your. So no, that's it. What you have to do is know that time tells a story.
Right.
See, so I'm a person. My father told me that, and those are the people who molded me. No, time will always. The truth, no matter how it's oppressed, no matter what a person thinks, sooner or later, the truth is going to come out. And so I know.
What type of person was Ben-Ammi? For those of us that we heard about the man,
mm-hmm.
but to you personally, because he was a friend,
mm-hmm.
Just maybe in a story that you could tell to explain what type of person.
Okay, well I will tell you this here. This is how I'll explain it. I listened to my beloved brother. I love him very much. Moreh Mishael's interview with you. And I'm reiterating what Moreh Mishael said because he's one of the kindest, most generous, honest people that I've ever met among all many leaders. Like all leaders, they have faults. I have mine. Cohane had his.
Right.
Ben-Ammi had his. If you judge by faults, none of us will ever be anything.
Absolutely.
The Creator is merciful to us all. We all have portions to play. Malcolm, Elijah Muhammad, every man, Moses, they all had their faults, but they were great servants of the Maker of heaven and earth. So when you understand that and you realize that when you hear me say that I've been to South Africa, it's Ben-Ammi that sent me there. He paid for the ticket. When you hear me say that I've been to Turkey and Egypt, he made sure that I go there because he knew that if I take you and have you go to these places, you're going to be able to serve Yah in a way and articulate. You're already a dynamic teacher, but you're going to be able to do great works. And so he sent me to international conferences in South Africa because he knew that I could deal with Jews. He sent me to Barbados to deal in international conferences because he knew that I could be able to deal with Christianity. If homosexuality came up, that I would be able to use Torah. So I mean, I'm telling you, he's a great servant of Yah. And again, like myself, most men that do extraordinary and great jobs that go beyond ordinary people, sacrifices of their family and time with their family. I have made great sacrifices of serving Yah and not having the time. We cry privately and inwardly of the pain that goes with this separation for a greater cause. But again, when you know these men on the level that I happen to know them, Cohane Ben-Ammi and his teacher and so many others, again, there's an understanding of what we have, that you realize that most people don't understand. We're misunderstood. So you can't allow that to deter you. We operate on a different spirit. There's a different spirit of Yah that I operate on. That doesn't affect me. Never has what people said bothers me. They always talk about you. So that goes with just being, everybody gets talked about. In fact, you just being alive, because just like somebody's talking about me, somebody's talking about them. Yes. So no, that's how it goes. You don't let that bother.
Because you're speaking about unification and the coming together of Israel. This past summer, Rabbi K.O.Y FUNNYE was made the chief rabbi of that segment of the community. Have you ever met Rabbi K.O.Y FUNNYE? Have you ever had any contact with him? What's your relationship with him?
I've known him over 30 years.
Wow. Okay.
I've worshiped with him many, many times in Chicago.
He has an open door policy to you.
Oh, we love each other. You know what I'm saying? Because we've known each other a long time. He also knows that I'll never be Jewish. So again, that's not an issue. He knows me well enough to know that.
But you guys have dialogue.
Oh, yes. He's been reaching out for me since last year. When all of that took place. I'll probably be meeting and speaking with him sometime in the near future. Look forward to it. And he's playing a role. I won't speak about it, but he has a role that he's playing. Just like I always tell you, that you need somebody when you're at war. You need someone to engage the enemy at every point of attack. And so again, you got to respect where they're at. But you know, there's a higher mindset that way I won't speak at. But no, I know all of these people. One time I was in Israel, and one of the princes said, because I met with all the leadership before leaving, and they said, Cohane Michael, wherever we go, everybody knows you, and seems like you know everybody. But that's how I try. I want to know everybody. I love they're all of our people, and that's the way it has to be. I hope to bring everybody to the table. That's what I've done in the past. I've had many of times where I brought all of the New York brothers and sisters to the table. What I'm doing is not new. Everybody who knows me and listening know I've been doing this from. That's who I am. That's who I am. I'm Lewi. That's who I am.
That hook.
That's who I am.
You're an author. You authored 2 books, I believe. 3
books, and I probably have 3 that's going to be published probably in the next few months. I edited 2 books while in Israel. And I've had those books sitting for 2 years, and it just flowed out, and I completely edited them while I was in Israel over the last month.
All right, can you mention the 3 books that you have available, so that the people will be able to see, and we could get that word out there to the new audience that might not know you? You know, it's a lot of people.
Well, I have a website known. I've just opened up a Facebook page known as Levitical Communications. I also have a company registered as Levitical Communications, probably over 25 years, and it's dedicated to the spread of the Hebrew culture globally. I also have now a YouTube site under my name with many, again, messages. I've done a lot of interviews like this is what I'm doing now on a regular basis. When I get to Ghana, I'll continue to do it. My first book came out of an autobiography. It's called From Harlem to the Holy Land. I never published it. It was given years ago to a brother named Nasik Emmanuel. That was what Ben-Ammi asked me when we met. You asked me how did we meet. He came to my home in Queens when I was here intermittently going back and forth.
Right.
And he heard about the fact that I had gone to Ghana, and I think at that time I was there 30 years, and that most of the people, practically everyone, had returned to America, that I stayed with my family, and that impressed him tremendously. He just wanted to meet this person. He told me that through a brother named Shalumiel, that everywhere he went, people would ask him, have you ever met Cohane Michael? And he told them. So when we met at the Schomburg Library, that was the time of the Operation Moses and Solomon, where the Falasha were flowed into Israel. That's when I met first member of the community sojourning here in the United States.
Right.
And so Ben-Ammi asked me, how can I help? I told him I was trying to get this book published, but nobody would touch it. And he said, send it to D.C., which I did to the brother Nasik Emmanuel. About a week or two later, he called me and he said, your writing is gold. All we have to do is polish it up. He said, you have 3 books in one.
Wow.
So the autobiography has never been published because I felt that this is now probably over 20 years later. So much I've done since then that, and I knew that I didn't even want to publish it then, but it was the only way that I could tell the story of my experience. And out of it, I published a book called Israelites and Jews, The Significant Difference. And then I published another book called Final Resolution, The Separation of Truth and Lies in the Bible. My experience was that everywhere I went and said I was a Hebrew Israelite, they say, are you Jewish? And I had a lot of experiences with Jews here in America, so I shared that, and that became one book.
Right.
And then the other book, I used Hebrew Israelites and Jews to document through the Tanakh and through history to show that connection, to prove that we were the Hebrew Israelites. The other area that I knew I had to deal with, I prayed to the Creator for guidance in all of my writings. He guided my hand and my pen. And I knew that I had to prove that Christianity was not a true doctrine. It was not true. Because in my experience, everyone thinks that they have the truth. The Jehovah's Witnesses, whoever you speak to, they believe they have the truth. And I wanted to be able to show beyond a shadow of a doubt, when you dealt with the Bible, that in that Bible everything was not true, that there were truths and lies in the Bible. So I called it Final Resolution, meaning that in the final determination of all this discussion among mankind, that the truth of the fact that the Creator, Yahweh, whose name is not mentioned in the translation of Lord, and God Elohim is not mentioned, that people will know and have a clear understanding of separating in that book they call the Bible the truth from the lies.
Okay.
And that the Old Testament, known as the original Testament or the Holy Scriptures, would be the place where the establishment of the litmus test for truth would be found, and that there are things in the New Testament that came out of the Old that we agree, accept, and we know that the Creator or Spirit in the original writings became a man born of a woman, which is an abomination based on the original writings.
Right.
And I just went from point to point, and there are also places where there is inaccuracies, mistranslations, misspellings. I compared them by putting the scriptures side by side so that a person could actually see it. Many people have the Bible. Some claim they've read it, but they've never read it from cover to cover, the way you sit in sequence, in chronological sequence, so they don't get the understanding. And with the millions that have read the Bible, there are very few that have understood it.
Right.
So I again try to, with the guidance of Yahweh, bring that to all humanity. My writings are not for Israelites alone. It's for the human race.
Right.
Truth is not for any one people. It's for the human race. I take opportunities like this to apologize to the nations for what we have done. We're responsible in a great sense for the state of the world. So I apologize on my behalf of our people, for not being that light. If we had taken this truth to the people of the earth, we wouldn't have all these religion and this confusion of what has been called Babel or Babylon.
For the people information, and maybe an Israelite wants to travel to Guyana, where is your school located in Guyana? The address.
Okay, well, we don't have a school, we have a community.
A community.
Ironically, it's located on a street called 3619 Christianity Street. It will probably be renamed one day. Cohen used to have a tough magazine, and they used to call it Cohen's Corner. We're on the corner. Even though it's named that, they'll probably call it, if you have to, they'll call it Cohen's Corner. Because again,
what an irony, right?
we have the largest Hebrew building ever constructed in South America on that corner.
So you have a community.
We are communities. Yes, because we're in Georgetown, Linden, Berbice, West Bank, interior. We're all over the country. I told you, I'm waking up a country.
Wow, that's great. And I don't want to drag it out any longer. I'm sure that I'll have another opportunity to sit down with you. But in concluding, what's your message to the people? And what's your message to the people, to the community? What's your message to the community here in New York City and abroad?
My message is a reiteration of the message of the Holy One of Israel. He says, "Gather yourself together, O shameless nation, before the decree come forth, and that we seek Yahweh in humility, seek togetherness." He says, "It may be that you shall be hid in the day of yours anger and indignation." It's Zephaniah, the 2nd chapter, those first 3 verses. We need to humble ourselves with each other. We need to love one another, as the Creator said. We need to, again, express that love as a verb of action, because love is a verb called ahav. And so it's not a noun. It's an action that we need to live it, and we need to become an obedient people. We need to know that righteousness exalts a nation, and we have to live right in everything that we do, whether we're seen or unseen. We need to understand family and realize that if we apply these principles, we wouldn't have broken families. When our families do break up, and sometimes relationships are not reconcilable, but it didn't matter that when Abraham had to send Hagar and Ishmael away, Ishmael was still his son. So that when you have a divorce, as they might call it, a get in Hebrew, or a release in some communities, a separation, that the children are still the children of both parents. The nephews are still the nephews and nieces of both parents. That the grandchildren are still the grandchildren of both parents. So that we should start a marriage which is, using the word divine, pleasing in the sight of Yah. And when it doesn't work out, we should still have a divine relationship of not leaving and turning one parent against the other and teaching the children that. And again, separating ourselves, because part of what the Torah teaches is how to get along even with our misunderstandings. So if we apply that, we'll be a blessed nation. We were destroyed because we didn't apply the law, and we must apply these principles. They are our wisdom, our knowledge, and our understanding in the sight of the nations, who will say, "Who can be and who is like unto this great, and people that have Yah so nigh unto them?" And so we have to show them we have a responsibility to be that nation on earth that lives. We influence people more than any other nation. And when we drop our pants down, everybody drop their pants down.
That's right.
When we do a dance, everybody do the dance.
Right.
So if we can influence them with our hats backwards, why not be a righteous influence to the people? And we have to start by loving ourselves first and practicing this harmony of brotherhood and sisterhood, and then we can be able to be and establish a universal brotherhood, which is what the planet needs at this time. That would be my message to our people and to everyone.
All right, something came to my mind before we conclude. Chief Michael Cohane Levi, he has this profound memory from when he was young. He said, K.O.Y used to do this rap song when we were little. Now, I didn't know K.O.Y was a rapper. And he goes into your voice and into your reflect. Do you remember the rap song?
Yeah, I remember the rap, but I wrote it for somebody else to do it. I'm not the singer.
You're not going to do the rap song?
I'll just tell you this. It was really written to send a message to people.
Right,
and that was what it was. And it went something like this. A lot of people rapping aren't telling you nothing. Here's a rap that's gonna teach you something. Jacob and Esau were brothers just two. You can read it in the Bible. What I say is true. Then it goes on and on and on. And that's what it was about.
I mean, this is something he always, when we're having a conversation about, you said, man, K.O.Y used to sing that rap song. And so it just used to, it brings, it's that memory of your youth. And he always speaks highly of you, and he has a lot of love and respect for you, and he loves you, I
love him too, and it's very touching what you just said,
right,
because it just shows you how we as adults can impact upon a child.
Right.
And if he remembers that, and I never knew he did, right, so that's why I said it's touching to know that he remembered that song and how I would do it. But it was really not to do anything but to send a message and letting people know that this story of Jacob and Esau, of Israelites and Jews,
right,
it's right in that Bible. Right. And it says again, you're not a Rasta, you're not a Jew, you're not a Negro, and you're not a Jew.
Right.
You understand?
Okay.
You can read it in the Bible. What I say is true. You're not a Rasta and you're not an Igbo. When it just goes with all these different nations to point us back, and you're an Israelite.
You're an Israelite.
You're an Hebrew Israelite, yeah.
And when it's all said and done, how do you want to be remembered? When it's all said and done, when, we all have to take that walk, we all have to make that final journey, how do you want to be remembered?
A humble, devoted family man and loyal servant of the Holy One of Israel.
Hallelujah. Toda Cohane.
Toda Cohane. Love you.
Love you too.
Love you and appreciate it.
Shalom, shalom, brothers and sisters. I hope that you have enjoyed the 4-part interviews that I did with Cohane Michael Levi, an elder that's been around for almost 50 years doing this way of life. We know that our elders are precious, and the things that they do, or the way that they pave the way and the road for us, is very important. He gave us a lot of history in this interview. He brought us in on some things that we might have not known, and in some parts have even made us laugh. And it's a beautiful thing. But sometimes as Israel, one of the main things that we have to do is begin to show support. And show support in the way that other communities do. Now, he mentioned 2 books that he had. I want everyone out there that watched this interview, that these 4 parts of the interview, that if you find it in your heart to support the elder, support his books, and support the things that he has put out there. So the first book is this book, Israelites and Jews, The Significant Difference, by Cohane Michael Levi. And you got the ISBN number in the back right here for everybody to see. Right? ISBN number is right there. The book costs $15. And also, They have a Facebook page called Levitical Communications. You could go to that and you could order the book from there. But I also have some books available. So the first book is Israelites and Jews, The Significance Different by Cohane Michael Levi. The next book is Final Resolution, The Separation of the Truth and Lies in the Bible. There you have it. Separation of the truth and the lies in the Bible. And the ISBN number is right back here. You can see it clearly. That's for everyone out there that wants to see the ISBN number. But you could also order this from Levitical Communications, which is a Facebook page that Cohane Michael has. Let's support our people. Even if you have the book, if you know somebody, a new brother or sister that's just come in, these are must-haves. You must have these books in your bookshelf. This man has put in the time, the effort, has done things that many leaders in the community have not done. This man has traveled the world to carry the message of Israel and to glorify the name of the creator of heaven and earth. He also has some DVDs here. The first one, Cohane Michael Divine Relationships. That's also available. I also have copies of this. And the next one is just simply entitled Cohane Michael Relationships. So one is Divine Relationships and one is Relationships. All right. So I want everyone to purchase these DVDs, to purchase these books in support of our elder and all the work and effort that he puts in. We had over 1,000 views on all the videos, so that means there's a lot of you out there that might not have the books, that are new, that might not have the DVDs. And even if you have them, like I said, it's great to give as a present to newcomers. So as you can see, the books are $15 each. I have copies of the book. You can reach me at 347-622-9090, 347-622-9090. Let's all support the Cohen and make sure that we continue to support Israel in all of our endeavors. Thank you, and may the Most High God bless you all. Shalom, shalom.